What's this? This is our first step to upgrading the Netfinity 5000. This is an ATI Radeon 7500 64 megabyte TV out with TV out, which is pretty much S-Video, DVI, and VGA ports. This is the card that's going to replace the Onboard S3 Trio 64 sad little thing that it is card that's on the current Infinity motherboard. This is the first upgrade we're going to do, and one that's very necessary because, as you've seen in the previous videos, I can't get above 8-bit color at 1024 by 768. Onboard graphics weren't that great in 2000, so we're going to upgrade. Now, this card has been in a server. I know it works. The reason it was pulled is because when we were installing Server 2003, Server 2003 would stall on the install because it had no idea what to do with this card. It couldn't find drivers, so it would stall. And the minute I pulled this card, I was able to install Server 2003. However, after spending many, many hours updating, adding Service Pack 2, and then about 200 updates to Server 2003 that came down last night, I'm confident that this card is going to be a little less of a problem than it was in my initial install. So, that said, we're going to go ahead and do the install right now. It's going to be one thing at a time, so we still don't have sound, but we're going to have better video. Here we go. All right, the first thing we have to do is actually get into the case, and to do that, there's this nifty little thing we slide here, which lets us open the case. Just like that. And just like that, there's the guts. And you can see, not a lot of expansion there, but we have everything we need. There's the two processors, the fan, memory, all that good stuff. What we're going to do, you can't see it from this angle. Here, I'll try to fix that. Yeah, as you see, we have on the bottom here, just barely, I'll get this cable out of the way maybe. We actually have, you can't see it too well, but we have old ISA and PCI slots. We're going to put that video card right in that ISA slot. So, here we go. All right, you can see we got the card installed. You can see the ports there. And if we go up, you can actually see the onboard video there. That's the S3 and onboard, and we're not going to be using that. And when this thing comes up and finds this card, it's actually going to disable the onboard, which is kind of nice. And the other nice thing is that the way the cards go into this server, which a lot of servers do, you don't have to use screws or anything. They just have fold-down latches to let you take stuff in and out because they know that people are going to change cards in these servers. So anyway, let's hook it up and see what happens. All right, we got everything hooked up. Looks like the monitor's going to come on. That's a good sign. Yep. We're hooked into the DVI port now, which I prefer, especially with this newer monitor. You should see a message about planar video disabled due to offboard or card, or yeah, offboard card, something like that. There's a chance I may actually have to go back into the BIOS with this too, because it may be upset that I've changed things and not bothered to tell it. That's no big deal though. Usually on the second boot after doing this is when you'll find messages like that come up in this particular server. So and there's our message. That's a good sign. Okay, so we're booting. Well, the system knows at least that it has a new video card. It just doesn't have a driver, so on its default 320 by 200 mode here, which is because everything's huge on the screen, but we'll fix that with the driver. First thing you'll notice is that it has no idea what video card it has, so it's running on the default VGA driver, but we're in 10 by 7 and we're in 32-bit color. Before we can only get 8-bit. So it knows it's got more VRAM. So that's a good thing. So let's get to doing the driver now. See, the first thing we did here was actually go check out what was actually being seen by the OS. And you can see that it actually knows what the card is, but it doesn't quite know what to do with it. And what I've gone ahead is I've gone ahead and disabled the onboard driver because there's no use to have that thing using resources. By the way, if you've been wondering about this, I've disabled this. You saw it when I had the case off. That's a gigabit Ethernet adapter I have installed in offboard. And if you leave it enabled, 2 adapters without bridging them causes an issue. So that's why that's there. Anyway, we're going to try to fix this. One of the things I did last night was actually locate an AMD ATI driver package that should work with this card. It's kind of old, but I downloaded it last night. We're going to try to install this package and see if that doesn't help out Server 03 figure it out. Now, this package is really meant for Windows XP, but it should work on this OS since Server 03 and XP are basically the same kernel. Well, let's give that a click. So it looks like it's trying to start. It's extracting its files here. This is the part where I had to do a little research, but luckily the hardware I had was a little newer than the server, and AMD was still maintaining an older driver set. This is definitely legacy hardware, which should be more than sufficient for the needs that we're going to throw at it. Probably better so than even a newer card. Look at that, before AMD took them over. Okay, that's a good sign. Let's go ahead and restart, and hopefully when it comes back, we'll see an even better looking screen. That's the thing about 32-bit OSs, or specifically older Windows OSs. They seem to want to reboot for everything. This is kind of annoying. I can't tell you how many times this thing rebooted last night with all the updates. I had to get up 3 or 4 times in the night just to restart the machine. But when it comes back up, hopefully it should be looking a whole lot better. Okay, we've rebooted, and you can already tell from the size of the box that we've gotten somewhere. Oh yeah. We're definitely using that card now. This almost looks like native resolution. Now, one thing I'll note, the performance is actually a little snappier, and that's partly because the onboard video actually uses system RAM, which is much slower. So painting the screen, all that stuff is gonna be slower. So there's just putting an offboard card in alone is going to give you a benefit. Yeah, look at that. We're in HD. 1920 by 1080. There's one thing I want to mention while we're here and doing this. Go ahead and I right-click that, and I go into the system properties. If you're going to use a server OS for basically a workstation OS, there's one big change you need to make, especially in Windows OSs. And this is in the performance setting, or the advanced tab. You go to settings. You see this visual effects, advanced data. Okay, go to advanced. Click this radio button. Best performance of programs on both of these. What this basically does is make sure that your machine works more like a workstation or a desktop than a server. Otherwise, things get a lot slower when you're trying to run programs up in this area. So, just a little note. All right, we've opened up CPU-Z. Let's see if it has anything to say. Well, it has a little more to say about it. 64 meg of memory. Not much, but something. That's better than nothing. So we've done it. We've got our video upgrade. Server 03's happy. And we can move on and do the rest of the upgrades on this machine. Hey, thanks for watching. We'll see you later.